Now, if you haven't figured it out yet, there's a reason I called this video series Figure It Out, because sometimes I have to figure it out. There's no instructions with this. Mark just handed me a box of foam, said give her. All right, so you can see the silver angle. That's where the hatch starts. You got about 1/8 of an inch of play. So I'm going to now do a cut for real. Probably not one of my better ideas, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to cut that angle right there in real time. So I get things nice and square. I got my angle, and then I'm just going to cut with my super duper Chinese, or what are these things called? It's not long enough. Japanese razor saw. That didn't work. And that's what happens when you do videos in real time. Let's just try this then. I'm going to get that cut. How am I going to get that cut? Hang on. I need a bigger saw. The joys of real-time video. What I actually meant to grab was this little guy. This is a great coping saws work. This is like a little mini hacksaw, and that's perfect for doing it. These Japanese saws are awesome, these razor saws. It's just not big enough. I got a bigger one, bigger blade, still not big enough. You could use a hacksaw blade, by the way, you get at the hardware store. But I need to cut this angle. I'm doing this for real. No safety net, no replacement parts. Get it wrong, and I have to start over. So cutting all the way through. Looks like we're almost there. And voila, there we are. So now we've really gone and done her this time, Ollie. So I'll sand that, I'll get that perfectly flat. But the idea is that that is now going to be a component that stays there. We're probably going to put, we're originally thinking of putting a magnet in there. I don't think we're going to have to. And then I'm going to cut this. So let's cut this guy around about the same spot because it's already painted there. And I know that if it's too long, that's okay. So I want to cut right down that line so I don't have any black or silver showing through. We never supplied you guys with silver paint. Probably should have, but I don't really have much. So again, the concept is he goes on the back, and then this becomes your hatch. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of sanding, a little fitting. He'll get cut the most. The most important part is I want this line. I want that line. Once I sand this a little bit flatter, I want that line right where that edge is. And the thinking is, when this is glued onto here, you'll be able to grab it and slide it in there. Maybe we'll put a magnet at the front. I think it's probably going to be at the back. This looks like a natural place for a magnet, so that once you get her in place, boom. So again, I do my best work without the pressure, the enormous pressure of being a YouTube star. So I'm going to shut the video off here for a second, do a little sanding, do a little tweaking, and I'll be right back. Okay, I think we have a plan. All right, here's what matters. What matters is everything lines up front to back when you start cutting this cockpit section. Mark has supplied 4 magnets. I think we're only going to need 2, but we'll start with 2. Polarity matters on these little suckers. Anyways, the concept is really simple. This, like I said, gets glued to that. So the most important thing is that it's centered and it's at the front of the hatch. You can still see the hatch lines. This will go on afterwards, but we're not going to glue it because we still want to flip this over. It'd probably be easier if I'd done this different, but whatever. Line it up, make sure it's straight this way, make sure it's centered this way. Then do the same thing with this, and you got to kind of tack this together. I guess if you wanted, you could put pins in it. It doesn't really matter. But get this centered on the hatch, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use foam safe CA again. I'm going to kick it once I've got everything lined up because I need this attached to that hatch. This doesn't matter. It's just for alignment. But this matters for alignment too, but we don't want that attached. You know what I'm going to do? So I think we're just going to take our Dremel and we're going to make a hole in the foam, a little divot, and we're just going to glue epoxy this time. We're going to epoxy the magnet in there. We're going to epoxy the other magnet in there. And I think once you pull those two together, they'll go plunk, and that'll be it. That hatch will be on. That's the plan. Wish me luck. So here we are. I just glued the hatch. I lined everything up. And again, lining up here and here is the most important. Getting that edge right there. I did the foam safe CA trick again. I put the glue on the part, kicked the hatch in place, didn't pull it out, and now I'm just giving it a second. There's also a technique, I don't know if I ever talked to you guys about this, it's called stitching. If you've never seen this. Foam CA, foam safe CA, wow, that's a mouthful, is instant, but if you want the extra strength, what you can do is you put foam safe CA on the front and on the back, but in the middle you run a bead of this. And the idea is the foam safe CA kicks off and gets you your bond. This takes 24 hours to dry, but it's like the stronger bond of the two. Foam safe CA is brittle. I didn't do that here, but you could. It's called stitching. I've done that on hundreds of models where I use the quick CA to kick things off so that while this sets up, nothing moves. But that's looking pretty good. Now the moment of truth. I haven't put the magnet in there yet. Got a little bit of glue in there. Does the hatch come off? Oh yeah. So I've got that little bit at the front. And the idea is it's just going to slide in and drop. So where's my canopy? Put my canopy back on there. Put this little back piece. Right, I'm a little long. That's perfect. A little bit excess. Oh my God, does that look gorgeous? And it works. Let's see if I hold this. This is in place. Can I pull up? Oh, look at that. Boom. Now, of course, you know, we don't know until we flight test these things, but in theory, this should work. I hope it works. So I'm going to, again, pause the video and go install those magnets permanently, see what we get. Okay, a couple little thoughts on what we're doing here, what we're trying to accomplish. Because it's kind of like you can figure this out. I need a magnet in here, and I need a magnet in there so that they go together like this. These little magnets are polarized. There they are right there. You can see both of them. They just happen to be on the tip of a Dremel. It just happens to be the right size. So this is a carbide cutter. If you don't have that, well, you can still do it with a knife. And what you got to do is you got to create a pocket right there in the middle. So that's what I'm going to do. I create a pocket. Then I can epoxy them in like so. Get them lined up more or less close. As long as the polarity is right, there is north-south because they're magnets. They can be off a little. They'll just seek home. So the more accurate you get it, the better. I'm going to try to go, you know, as close to center as I can. So, whoops, I lost the magnets. Anyways, I'll find them. I hope. So I got lots of meat around here. And it will be epoxy, 5-minute epoxy. That usually works pretty good. And we'll even have a little bit of epoxy on the surface of the magnet so that, you know, it's grabbed into the foam so that they don't fall out. That's what I'm going for. Hang on, I want a quick tutorial on how to do epoxy, an epoxy tutorial. So anyways, I like to use stuff from the hardware store as much as possible because I'm out in the sticks and sometimes I can't get to the hobby store. So Gorilla brand 5-minute epoxy. It's cheap, it's economical. That's what I'm going to use. These little applicators are pretty deluxe. So you get a perfect 2-part mix. You get the resin. Then the wife saves all her margarine containers and yogurt containers because they're actually really perfect for doing this mixing. I buy a box of popsicle sticks at Michael's. They make for great mixing sticks. Okay, so that's all mixed up. So what we're doing is we gotta get the polarity right? So I created 2 little pockets with the Dremel. They're all lined up the way that I like them. I just need to make sure that they're attracting to each other without actually pulling them out of there, and they are. So now I just kind of need to, well, now I need to pull it out. All right, there we go. So we got them out. We're going to fill this little pocket with epoxy. We're even going to smear it a little bit over. Give a little bit of extra strength to the Depron, a little bit of rigidity to it. Oops, you can't even see that. Depron is porous on the end grain it's porous. The skin has got that little waxy coating, but the end's quite porous. So if you smush it in there, you can actually get a little bit of rigidity out of it. Now, if I'm smart, I should be able to get that in and then slide this guy off of there and set him down so I get the polarity right. Don't get that backwards. I'm getting this all over my fingers. That's okay though. There. So that's epoxied in. Nice and flat, flush. Everything looks good. Then we'll come over here and do the same thing with this guy. Smush that epoxy. That's my word. I don't know how many times I've said it. Smush. Smush is a word. So hold it up where you guys can see it. And again, I'm coating this whole thing. Put a nice tough edge. Now, if I get this right, if I don't flip it over, and it's so slippery in epoxy, and boom. Now if I get it wrong, well then I'll just have to redo it. So now I'm getting a little hydrostatic lock with too much epoxy in there, but there we go. Okay, it's flush. Yeah, I like that. Now, part of the great part about having, I should have been wearing, I can't really wear gloves when I do this, but one of the great things about having methyl hydrate in the shop because methyl hydrate cleans epoxy off. So now I got epoxy all over my bloody fingers. I don't really like to do this too often. It's really hard to glue stuff with gloves on. So you can see a little bit of methyl on the paper towel, and my fingers are clean. Oh, a little bit of epoxy. So I'll go and clean that up. But anyways, there's what we got. We got a part A and a part B, and we're gonna give this about 5-10 minutes to set up, and hopefully with any luck. Oh, I got them on backwards, I can already tell. Okay, I'll flip this guy over before the epoxy sets. Always double check your work.